Now that the Big Four has been sold off to a liquidator and there are rumors of layoffs and the stake in paper pattern making is at risk, what are we gonna do? Hi, I'm Jazz and welcome to my channel, or welcome back. Today I'm going to be talking about the possible future for pattern making and how you can pick good PDF patterns, because that is where we're heading, and how you can recognize a good pattern maker amongst all the noise. Featuring today my baby, because he is stuck to me like glue today. And if I was gonna get this done, yes. If I had planned to get this done today, it was only gonna happen with him on my hip. Even though the Big Four was sold off to a liquidator and they are probably planning to get rid of paper patterns, most of us have already pivoted to PDF patterns as it stands and looking for ways to find newer, cooler, more size inclusive. Can you stop hitting me with that? Size inclusive patterns. And I mean, let's be real. Having a PDF pattern feels like I'll have it a lot longer because I'm able to reprint it. If I change size, if I make it for somebody else, I can reprint it and I can still have that on a digital file. Not to say that paper patterns are long gone and we don't need them, because I think that we do. And we did this because, Joanne is gone. We knew Joanne would be leaving the first time they filed bankruptcy. It was like, okay, what do we do? So the second time, along with store closures, and then, we're just gone all together, the masses ran looking for newer pattern makers, things that are more fluid, especially in sizing. That has always been an issue. But with that, there are so many people looking to capitalize on patterns, but they don't quite have the skills to make the pattern correctly, grade it properly, good instructions, or a good tutorial. They just want to make money. And it can be easy to get ripped off. Let's be real. First thing we're going to talk about is how you can weed out the bad, whether that's the pattern maker because they are using AI to make patterns and using somebody else's design, or the pattern itself just may not quite be there. Because let's be real, we find a pattern we like, we get really excited, we start seeing what we need, we visualize it in our head like, oh, this is going to be so cute. And then the next thing you know, you done bought this pattern and it's not what you thought it was. So the first thing you want to do, you want to make sure that that pattern maker is legit. Do they have a social media? Do they have a website? Is there a presence outside of this Etsy shop? Because that's where we all find a lot of people first. That says, oh, this is a person who actually makes patterns and not someone using AI. And are their reviews, and actually look at the reviews, especially on Etsy, because Etsy will prompt you to review something, and a lot of times people review it without even using it, doing it, actually putting the pattern together. It's like, oh, I got it, it was great, I can't wait to use it. And it's like, that doesn't help me. What do the reviews say about it? The instructions are vague, and they had to assume a lot. There were skip steps. Maybe that's not the pattern to get. Oh, this pattern was so good. It gave me tips on how I can go from bust to waist if my size is different. Great. That is the kind of PDF pattern and the kind of pattern maker you want to continue to buy patterns from. And here's the thing. Reviews can be curated. So the seller can decide which ones they want to keep and which ones they don't want to keep. And if they're only showing the good reviews, then how good is it? Not that things cannot only have good reviews, because sometimes patterns are just that good. Patterns are products, period. They're just that good. There are people who are going to have some other things to say. And in those reviews, you will see common things like, oh, the crotch is kind of short, I had to lengthen it. And if those are common things across all the reviews, that's great. The pattern is consistent and you know what to look for, which can be helpful. Reviews, like I said, can be curated, but social media, not as much. People are going to share it whether they like it or they don't. And while you're looking at this pattern or this pattern maker, you go on social media and see that people have made this. What are they saying about it? How did they make it? That is a good indicator, especially if you're seeing so many people make it. And it can also give you a bit of inspo because you've likely got a million thoughts running in your mind about what it is that you want to make for this. And even just seeing some other people make it can help you hone in onto those ideas a little bit. What I also really love about social media is that you can actually see in their videos and their pictures what may or may not be an issue for you. You can see if the waistband may be a touch too short because the button is in the wrong place, and you can see it pulling there. And you may note that. You can see that. You can see if darts are weird, where the creator may hide those reviews or say, oh, I don't want people to see that in a video, on a TikTok, in a reel. You can't hide it. Social media is real, it is raw, and it is unfiltered. It is right now the easiest way to find patterns, find people who are helping you find patterns or so, or any of the things. But it is full of people who are giving their honest, raw opinions about anything that they're making. Paper patterns are gone. We already can't go to Joann's. Walmart is limited, and shipping a single pattern off of currently the Simplicity site is crazy. You have to buy multiple. It's not like they are having a $1 sale on their patterns. I don't want to pay the $20 when we've only been paying maybe sometimes $10 for a pattern. So you get the PDF one, but printing can be tricky. If the printer is off, then the pattern is off. And if the pattern is off, it may not fit you well. So here's my tips. If you are printing at home, first print off the first page all by itself. You print it off because you need to check that your printer is printing to scale. Even off a little bit could make the bust too tight or the top too short. Sewing is math. 1 + 1 has to equal 2 in order for the answer to be correct. Now, I have become a bit biased to printing the large file, the AO, because now with the baby, I have no time to print and tape a million pieces of paper together on top of all the prep work that it takes to sew. It takes a long time to get to the sewing, and it is a lot easier to send your pattern off and they will ship it to you. Typically, I get it the next day. Or try your local print shop. It is absolutely worth the hassle. Your back will thank you. Your knees will thank you if you're putting your pattern together on the floor. Printing off those pages and taping them together takes so much time. And pattern makers do not put that into the time it takes to sew. And I think that that part should also be put into the time it takes to sew. There are so many things that go into a pattern, whether it's the book or the instructions or the pattern itself. I have used many people's sewing patterns, the big four, indie sewing patterns, and I've come across a lot of things that I thought were very helpful and things that felt unnecessary. So this is what I think the ideal pattern, the book, the instructions, if it's paper, the outside, the inside, it should have. If it checks off most of these boxes, then I think you should go ahead and get the pattern. No pattern is going to check off all of these boxes, and that's okay. So for a PDF pattern, the first thing that it should have are different file types. I think you should go with letter, A4, and AO. Optional to have projector file because projector files are like becoming such a thing. Everybody wants a projector they can project their pattern on. But if you're like me, you don't have a projector. I don't plan to get a projector anytime soon, I'm gonna be honest. A letter, A4, and AO are perfect files for your pattern. One issue a lot of indie pattern companies I keep seeing is that they sell you the pattern one size at a time. I think all patterns should have multiple size ranges all there on the pattern for you because we are not all one size fits all. Maybe I buy the 40, but I bought the 40 because my chest is the size in their size chart for 40, but maybe my waist isn't, or maybe my hips aren't. now you have to do quite a bit of fitting, or you have to buy the other patterns and then grade it in between. That's a lot of extra work. Putting all the sizes on a file for people to grade their size through, fix a cup for, is a lot more helpful than me buying one size and hoping that this one size fits, and then having to do possibly a million alterations when I could have just graded in between the sizes on the pattern before I even cut my fabric out. And something that I've learned from like McCall patterns is that having those multiple sizes, but removing the sizes out of each other and having them on different pages. So maybe there are sizes 4, 6, 8, and 10 for this pant leg, and then the 12, 14, 16, 18 for this pant leg on a different part of the pattern. Can be a lot easier to navigate with all the lines and everything if the pattern maker does not have the file as an Adobe file where you can click off some of the sizes, because that can be quite a bit of a maze. The third thing, but maybe this should have been the first, is that what the pattern is supposed to look like and what it actually looks like are the same things. That is important because every pattern does not. And you know that because your reviews you looked into or you found it on social media, whatever the case may be. And that moves us right into the next point, is that there are not major fit issues. For example, I won't say what the pattern is, but there was a pattern that was trending. It was a cute dress, but it was not graded well or fit well. The armhole was gaping. It was a low back and it did not sit right, flat against the body. And in hindsight, in the video, you can see that the girl was trying to not show the issues with the dress, and it was very frustrating. So if your pattern requires a lot of alterations and it was not fit tested or pattern tested well on multiple different bodies. So now the next point. I think all patterns should have the seam allowance clearly stated on all pages. I first came across this when I was sewing the Juniper dress by Tiana Harry. At the top of her instructions, there is a strip that tells you what the seam allowance is on every page. When you're using so many different pattern makers' patterns, it can be like sometimes hard to remember what the seam allowance is. It's 5/8 for McCall, Simplicity, things like that. It changes in Vogue sometimes. And then you have indie pattern makers who the seam allowance could be anything. And having to remember that when you get to the sewing machine, like go back and scroll through all the pages, like, okay, what's the seam allowance again? Adds to the time it takes to sewing, yet again. It would be easier on the maker to see on every page as a reminder, this is the seam allowance, instead of having to go back and search it if you forget. This moves me into the next part, having all markings, button widths, hem allowance, all the things explicitly stated. And I say that because I have come across patterns that don't. I recently made not recently, but this year I made the Irene dress. The button part does not tell you how far your buttons should be from one another. It gives you markings for where the buttons should be in the collar, and then it tells you to space evenly all your buttons. It just tells you the size of the buttons. Tell me where the buttons go so I can put them, especially the first time, see what the outcome is, and maybe the second time I'll make the adjustments in where I think I want buttons or how big or how small they should be. There shouldn't be any guesswork. What I love about the Big Four patterns is that on the first page, they have a blanket, remember all these kind of things. Stay stitch, understitch, top stitch, because maybe even the pattern is made for in difficulty advanced, but beginners like to try those things and maybe they don't know what that stuff is. The instructions, the written instructions, let me be clear. Written instructions should not be an option. All patterns should have written instruction. And I think a lot of indie pattern makers make a lot of assumptions about what people know or don't know, which can cause you to never finish it and it remain in your to be sewn pile because they left some knowledge out. Another thing, along with the instructions, that the illustrations should be clear as day. Whether it's a picture or it's an illustration, pictures can be a little muddy. But if it's going to be a picture, it should be clear. I should not be guessing. If you've got to put an arrow on the picture, if you've got to use a different thread or literally point to it in the picture, I shouldn't question. The pictures should go along with the instructions without confusion. And as I've said, instructions, written instructions, should not be an option. We should not be opting out of written instructions for a YouTube video. YouTube videos should indeed be optional, a great companion. I think that's really nice. It can be very helpful to not only read, see the instructions, and watch a video sometimes. Because if you're like me, if a pattern has a video, I'll watch the video full through before I even cut out my pattern pieces to see what it takes to make this, how long it actually is going to take, what the steps are, what is going on. That makes, for me, sewing, once I get to that point, a little bit more streamlined. Something that I love and that I think more patterns should have is fit reminders. Things that say, hey, this is a thing with bust, this is how you do a full bust adjustment. Or if it's a dress with a lot of volume, there is a part in the pattern that'll say, hey, you can take the volume out like this or add more volume like this. I saw that in the Juniper dress pattern and I thought that was really neat to have that. Even having a reference page that has clickable links of videos or things that you have made or whoever else that you like, whatever creators that you like. That'll help the person sewing go straight to that help instead of having to look through multiple videos to find the help that they're looking for. They're more likely, and I'm speaking to the pattern makers here, they're more likely to buy your pattern again. I know I would. Let me let you in on a little secret. No matter what the size chart is, no matter the finished garment, the measurements you fit, the pattern is not going to automatically fit you. You will likely have to make some adjustments. Just because the waist is your waist, it's not your body. Just like when you go to the store and you pull clothes off of a hanger, they mostly fit you, but not quite. That is because, just like in clothes, sewing patterns are made to fit a broad spectrum of people. You want something that fits you well to your body measurements and is tailored to you. You've got to learn a bit of tailoring. And that is not a blow on the pattern maker. That just means you've got some skills to learn, some things to keep in the back of your mind about how certain items fit you. And you may find that you have to do the same kind of adjustments for certain kinds of patterns so that your mate looks like it was made for you. It seems like we have a long road ahead of us in what may be this new landscape of sewing and creating and making. And that means that things are probably in the hands of us now. We are our community building it. We are the ones solving the problems that we're having. There's not going to be somebody coming to fix the issues. And the landscape of patterns and pattern makings and fabric stores and sewing community is going to be very different. If you have been trying to or have ideas on a pattern you want to make, I think now is the time for you to start. Give it a try. But you do not have to try it alone. Companies who make patterns are not doing it by themselves. Yes, we see Simplicity, this big monster that has a full team in marketing and sales and all the things, and graders and pattern makers and designers. But there are also small companies like Vicky Souls is not a person, because I say that because her patterns are so trendy and she is so popular now. She has a team of people who sews test garments, who grades, she designs, they pattern make together. Find a grader, find a pattern maker. Find another sewer. Give it to friends for free while you're fit testing and trying it out and see how it goes. This is the time to try building whatever maker community because our communities are being disbanded by large companies who just see us as profit. I mean, it can't be that hard, right? I personally have been thinking about making a pattern and, you know, I think I'm going to give it a try here soon. Let me know in the comments what are some things you love that come in patterns and what are things that you do not think are necessary at all. I would love to know what's on your mind about that. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more videos about sewing, making, fun, fashion, and I will see you next time.